Hello, good evening and welcome back to In the Know, the live and interactive Aintree Festival preview show, then brought to you by the Racing Post and Coral. My name is Ross Brierley and Cheltenham was that much of a rip-roaring success. We're back once again for 3 days set up in Merseyside for the Grand National meeting, of course, but it's not just the big one on Saturday afternoon. There are also 11 Grade 1s to get stuck into over the next few days, and of course a lot of handicaps, a couple of bumpers and a couple of other races over those national fences as well. So we've got some fantastic stuff to get stuck into. Unfortunately, we don't have the easy option of Tip the Irish Horse to go with in every race over the next few days. But we've got plenty of form lines who come clashing head-to-head in those big races over the next few afternoons as well. So let's see if we can pick a winner or three from day one in the company of the same team from Cheltenham. First things first, let me introduce you to my left, the one and only Racing Post tipster, Mr. Paul Kealy. Paul, welcome back. It simultaneously feels like a lifetime ago and only yesterday since we were in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a rip-roaring success, Cheltenham, for you. I've only actually turned up this week, so I'll find out where you're tipping. I'm looking to do a lot better than I did at Cheltenham. I had probably one of my worst for the last 10 years or so.
You had a good Friday?
I had a good Friday, but not in the paper. I did tip one winner in the paper, but it was, I got a few jars at home and got the scatter gun out and managed to find a few winners, but not from ones I tipped. So I don't want to show off about that too much.
You did promise me wholeheartedly on Twitter that you will be winning more money than me this week, though. So
yeah, we'll do, yes.
Absolutely, there you go. That's the kind of confidence we want. So Paul back in the saddle then for Aintree, and we tried to tempt him in to the studio as well, but he's just too comfortable on that sofa at home. But luckily, he's not down the pub because they're not opened yet. Welcome back, Tom Segal. Segal. They've completely messed my brain again, Tom. They said
Ross. You had one shot to getting it right and you got it wrong.
I did. It's because they've been feeding me lines left and centre. I knew that was going to happen as soon as we set it off. I knew that was going to happen. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks, Ross. Brierley.
Touche. Or touche, should I say.
I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to another good 3 days. Had a couple of weeks off. It's been nice. I haven't got the tan Keels has. Obviously, I've not been in the garden as much as him, but looking forward to Aintree. Be good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you recovered from Cheltenham? And it must be quite nice to look at races over the next few days and think, well, I haven't said what I think is going to win this race 14 times so far. Nice to have a bit of a fresh approach. Absolutely.
I mean, that's part of the problem with Cheltenham is you get so sucked into horses from, months in advance that, Aintree's different. Every race you haven't really looked at, it's good fun. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We'll find something, hopefully.
Okay, well, let's hope we do. And once again, joining us in the studio again to give us price moves, price boosts and tips and opinions as well, it is Mr. Simon Clare.
Hi, good evening.
Are you all right?
I'm grateful, yeah. No, I loved Cheltenham. It was a very different Cheltenham, obviously not being there, but actually it was an enjoyable difference really, coming into the studios with you guys and watching the racing in the afternoons. And yes, we've got the band back together for Aintree, and it's going to be a good 3 days.
Absolutely. If we were a band, what instrument would you play?
We wouldn't be hugely successful, I suspect, but we'd have a lot of fun.
Are you a bassist, or are you a drummer, or are you a guitarist?
I'd like to think I'd be the lead singer.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, rubbish. You're Ringo. You're Ringo, without a shadow of a doubt.
Fantastic stuff. Well, I'll be Pete Best. So hopefully we can...
Meatloaf.
Great. Well, if we don't get tips, at least we'll have a Friday night karaoke for you ahead of the final day of Aintree. But it's not just us for tipping winners as well. If there's one man we go to for Aintree winners, the surname's got to be Tizzard, and we have a very special guest on the show tonight to go through the yards runners. And Joe Tizzard joins us live on the line. A very good evening to you.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Well, I think we're all good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, good,
We're
thanks,
looking forward to hearing you.
Oh yeah, no, we're all good. We had a good Cheltenham, so we didn't get in the winners, but they were difficult to come by. But we had a nice Cheltenham, and the horses are all sort of come out of it well, and looking forward to having a good group going to Aintree.
Yeah, absolutely. You did. Like I said, you didn't have any winners, but pretty much every one of your headline acts sort of turned up and ran their best possible race, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. We 50% were in the first 4. Delighted with our novices, and they're our future as well, aren't they? So really pleased with them. And as a rule, we've always come through Cheltenham, and the horses have gone well at Aintree. So looking forward to taking. I think we've got a dozen going up. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the stats for Aintree, you've had 30 runners in Grade 1s at this meeting, and you've won 10 of them. That is a remarkable strike rate, over £60 level stake profit as well. Is it just should we not bother with the form and just back yours blind?
Well, it has been a good hunting ground, but we haven't had the strongest of seasons, but we're pleased with those horses that we're taking there, and they've they're there on their merit. So hopefully, I'll be disappointed if we don't come back with a winner.
Are you as relieved as many British trainers that the Irish Challenge is maybe a bit quieter 3 weeks after Cheltenham?
Yeah, you have to be, don't you? I mean, they look particularly strong at Cheltenham, and it's funny, we go to the races nowadays. There's no owners to talk to, so you end up talking to trainers a lot more than you used to, and the topic has been Cheltenham ever since, and how we can go about beating them in the future. But it's it'll come round. All of the horses that beat us were on the market at some point, pretty much every one of them. So we just get a few things right this side. It'll all swing to rounds about. It'll come back round.
Okay, lovely stuff. Joe, of course, it has been a strange year for people in general and racing in general as well, so it might well just be a little bit of a blip. But you've got some great runners this week. Of course, you've got a live chance in the big one as well. And, of course, tonight's show is live and interactive, so if you do have any questions for anyone on the panel tonight, do get in touch via YouTube or Facebook or Twitter as well. And we do have a social comment in for you, Joe, about your runner in the National. Mr. Malarkey is a great each-way shout for the National, says Michael Williams. We might as well start there. It is, of course, the feature race of the week, and he's run well at this track over the regulation fences, and he seems to be in very good form. Joe, what are your chances for the big one on Saturday?
We quite like him in it. He's got to get into a rhythm. That's the key with Mr. Malarkey. He went down to the Pipe Yard last Monday. John Joe scored him over, I think, 8 national fences, and he jumped them really well. But he's a horse that he likes to get into a rhythm. He proved that around Ascot this year when Harry got a great start on him, and he jumped for fun. Then we tweaked his wind after his run. He ran really well at Kempton in the race he won last year. So it's just quite a key thing that John Joe gets a nice start on him. Gets there's not a lot of room because there's a lot of runners, but just gets him into that rhythm, and then he can sort of slot into the first maybe 10 and take it from there. I think he'll enjoy the fences. I think he'll love the ground particularly. I think we'll know our fate by Beecher's first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the old sort of national trends, he sneaks in at a nice weight, just under 11 stone, and even on the slightly classier end of things as well. These past few years that have gone to younger, more unexposed horses, he fits those angles as well. So. 42 days off the track. Is he fit and raring to go?
Yeah, he's in good nick. The girl Kealy, who's one of our senior member staff, rides him every day, and she's really happy with him. And he looks $1 million. And he is a solid horse. He's just teetering below sort of graded sort of form. So like I said, if he gets into a rhythm, then he would definitely run a big race.
Okay, thanks, Joe. We've got another social comment in here. Matthew Taylor says, what's Joe's best chance of a winner? Yeah, you've got plenty of them, of course. Eldorado Allen, Native River, Fiddle on the Roof, the Big Breakaway, and obviously Mr. Malarkey as well, and a few in the handicaps. If you had a tenner in your pocket, Joe, and you had to back one of your runners, which would it be?
I think Oscar's Elite in the 3-mile novice hurdle. She ran a blinder in the Albert Bartlett with being second, and she's come out of Cheltenham really well. He was bucking and squealing within a week, and John Joe, he was a bit quiet after the race because he had a little sniff turning in, thought he was going to win it, and I think he could run well.
Okay, yeah, of course. If you take out the Irish runners, and you've won that by a street, haven't you? So, Oscar Elite then in the Sefton, of course, which you won with Thistlecrack a few years ago. Let's have a look at a few of the other runners. Quick question about Eldorado Allen, Joe. Did you want to step him up in trip tomorrow, or did you just want to avoid Shishkin?
No, we've been looking forward to stepping him up in trip all the way through, but we just felt that this was always going to be the right time. And also the Shishkin factor. I saw him entered at the beginning of the end of last week, and I thought, what's Nicky doing? He's playing games. But we've taken him on twice, and we all being well, we can't beat him. Whereas over 2.5, especially the way in the Arkle, Harry gave him a fantastic ride, and that was sort of the plan. But he couldn't have kept up in the first mile. They had him flat to the board. So I'm sure 2.5 will suit him well. And then he could improve into being a sort of Ryanair horse next year.
Yeah, as I say, you got great stats at Aintree. You're 3 from 4 in Grade 1 novice chasers. Native River, Finian's Oscar, Lost in Translation, and your other one hit the frame as well. So you've got Eldorado Allen. You've also got the Big Breakaway and Fiddler on the Roof in terms of novice chasers as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot between them, to be honest. We were quite confident of putting it to Monkfish with the Big Breakaway, and he travelled great, he jumped great, and then possibly got a bit tired from turning him. Whereas Fiddler on the Roof had sort of sat behind him, was picking up the pieces, but he also, there were dead even on ratings going into Cheltenham. They both come out of it really well. I wouldn't like to split them, to be honest.
Okay, so Dutch the 2 then potentially later on in the week. Let's ask our panel if they've got any questions or thoughts or opinions on the Tizzard runners. Paul, we'll start with you.
Opinion-wise, I'm going for something else completely in the opener, the Manifesto, but I think I prefer Eldorado Allen from the Arkle rather than Fusel Raffles from the Marsh. And I think the stamina issue is, he's a half-brother to Auvergnat, who won a Latouche Cup over 4 mile, 1.5 furlong, whatever. Also won a very, very high-class 3 mile handicap chase. So I would have thought he's going to have plenty of stamina for it, and will improve. And if he does improve, he's got at least as good a chance as Fusel Raffles, who's half the price.
Yeah, absolutely. And Simon, I think you are going 3 places that first race. Is that right?
I think we are, absolutely. I hope we are, yeah.
I was just looking at Eldorado Allen thinking each way bets on the opener.
I thought just be interested in Joe's report on Native River, because obviously he ran another gallant race in the Gold Cup, flat to the boards all the way round, ended up finishing 4th again. For people watching, thinking about backing him tomorrow, how's he come out of that race? Because it looked a hard race, but we know he's an incredibly tough horse, Joe. So what's the view from the stable?
Well, he's come out of it well. Dad's got the opinion that he's been back to, since he won the Gold Cup, he's been back there twice and missed a year. But both times, Dickie's had to get stuck into him early on. Really ask him, and whether horses are more intelligent than we think, and whether he's just sort of remembered it a little bit. He seems in beautiful form. He had a race at Cheltenham, and it took him 3 or 4 days to sort of bounce back. But you don't have to train him particularly hard between the two. And he's got some cracking form around Aintree. We'd have loved to have seen soft ground. We all know that, but it is what it is, and he's not getting any younger. But he's still the highest rated horse chaser in England, and we know that he'll try his hardest. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's probably 4th in the Gold Cup. It's pretty much the best form on offer. And just a quick word on tactics about Native River as well, Joe. Of course, he is 2 from 3 over course and distance, and he does like to get on with things around this track. Is that going to be the angle again?
For sure, yeah. That's the way we ride him. I mean, obviously Dickie retiring it changes things just slightly. John Joe's ridden him in a Denman, and he's won on him, so he knows him well. And he popped down and had a little sit on him this week, but he'll have to get the pace right. He's not a complete gun ho. Just keep pushing and sending him. Once he gets out and gets competitive over the first 2, then you have to ride a bit of a race on him. Use his jump in. I think that's what plays to his strengths around Aintree. There are big fences around the mild-made track, and down the back straight, he can get horses under pressure.
And we'll just ask Tom. Tom, if you were going to be back in a Tizzard horse this week, which one would you choose?
I was going to ask Joe about a favourite of mine. He went in my tracker at Exeter. Of all the gin joints, Joe, he hasn't beaten a horse since, but I thought he ran okay. Just clearly didn't stay in the 3 mile sixer at Cheltenham. Is your plan to run him on Saturday?
Yes, yeah, very much so. He didn't get home, but funny, Robbie pulled him up, and then he came back in and said that wasn't as bad as the Bear result. He said, I travelled well into it, and then I just haven't got home. So he ran really well around Aintree at the start of the season, and he looks quite well. He was also a horse that he was wrong after Doncaster, and then we couldn't find anywhere to get a prep run into him. So I think he's perhaps fitness wise improved for the run as well. So hopefully you see a big performance from him at Aintree.
Okay, well, thanks ever so much, Joe. So Oscar Elite, you think, is your best chance of a winner, but obviously it'd be nice to come away with that 33% strike rate again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that'll give us 4, so I'll take that now.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck, Joe, and fingers crossed you do get on the board at least once at Aintree, and best of luck for the remainder of the season.
Thanks very much.
Here we go, Joe Tizzard then live and on the line. And yeah, cracking chance, cracking strike rate. And of course, you've got a couple of high-profile Coral ambassadors this week, and they could have a very good week.
They absolutely could. I mean, obviously, Tom Scudamore was the other one. He's riding Cloth Cap in the National. But we've had loads of fun with the Tizzards over the last 4 seasons, I think. And this season's been tougher than most. Obviously, back in May, losing Kim was a huge personal family blow and a blow to the operation, and it's been just one of those awful sort of tough seasons for them. But as Joe said, if you end up with a strong spring, they might even, I'm not sure they'll have runners at Punchtown, but a strong Aintree, then that'd be a good way to end the season.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get stuck into some of the races then ahead of day 1 of a 3-day meeting over at Aintree. And the first race off the card is one we've just mentioned with Joe, Eldorado Allen, running then in the Manifesto Novices Chase here. And 5-2, though, the favourite here for Paul Nichols is Hitman. 3-1 Fusel Raffles, the Shunter 4-1, Eldorado Allen is 5-1, Protector at 8-1, Umbrigado is 11s, and Phoenix Way is 20-1. There are 7 runners here, but as we said earlier, 3 places on offer each way with Coral for this opening race. And Paul, obviously Cheltenham form coming from a variety of different angles here, but the market is going completely away from that and going for the most unexposed runner in the field.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a case of flip-flopping favourites, because Fusel Raffles was favourite when the market first came out. I'm wondering whether he's on the drift slightly because of how much water they put on the track. What we really do not know is what the going is going to be. They're now calling it good to soft, but they've been watering it pretty much every day. And I suppose watered ground, they call it loose ground sometimes, don't they? That's something that Fusel Raffles isn't going to like. He had that one terrible race in the middle of this season, didn't he? When they just said he didn't handle the ground, and the ground itself wasn't actually that bad. So that would worry me about him. Hitman, he's obviously very talented. The second to All Mankind is a pretty good run. He fell next time at Sandown, and he does have this occasion to brush through the top of 1 or 2. And that has to worry you. As Joe said, they are big, stiff fences at Aintree on the Mildmay course, probably some of the stiffest regulation fences in the country. So that would worry me a little bit about him. Like I said, I do like Eldorado Allen. Just a little bit worried that, stable form. Yes, a lot of them ran well at Cheltenham, but it's still 1 from 43 since the 16th of March. And
I mean, it was kind of like that going into Cheltenham, though. So it's
it was, and they did run really well. And if the Irish hadn't been so strong, they'd have had a really good one. So the good ones have all run well. So I'm not going to take that as too much of a negative. But my main point is that if Protectorate hadn't run at Kelso last time, he would be half the price he is now. His first 3 runs, particularly his first 2, were really, really good. He absolutely slabbed a couple of horses in each race that are now rated up 147. Melistic first time out at Carlisle, and then Paint the Dream, who's got some decent form to his name since. And he just looked really, really good. He didn't look so good going right-handed at Wincanton. I don't think he liked that track, but it certainly wasn't a bad run, given a few pounds to Best Ideas Oboe. He'd only been beaten a few lengths. Third one very easily next time as well. First Lieutenant Rocco, who missed winning me a fortune at Cheltenham by not turning up. All those forms really good. Last time out, he was wrong from the start. I mean, he was jumping to his right when he'd been jumping to his left. and he was beaten long before Stamina for 3 Mile came into play. He's had 7 weeks off. He's had a wind up. His trainer is 31% strike rate in the last 14 days. Dan Skelton really can't do much wrong. And I think if he bounces him out and gets him in front and gets him into the sort of rhythm he got at Cheltenham and at Carlisle, then 8-1's a silly price.
Okay, Protectorate then 8-1 for Paul. Tom, again, loads of form lines clashing here. Hit the unexposed angle of Hitman, the Arkle, the Marsh, and then you've got the Shunter. I can't help but feel that, you know, if you picked up $100,000 bonus at Cheltenham, you might have Aintree off, but they're going to keep going with him.
There's your winner. There's your winner, Ross. I think the Shunter will win. I think he was the most impressive winner of all of the Cheltenham Festival, nearly. I thought he hit the lines harder than anything else. I just think he's a proper top-class chaser going forward. I don't care that he only was racing off what mark. Very, very few horses win like he did at Cheltenham. I think he'll win this. I think there's reasons to take on Fusel Raffles. I don't think he'll run his race. I think Keels' point about the ground is a good one. It's 5.6 on the going stick, which is getting closer to soft than good. And I think they'll have thrown loads of water on before Saturday because of the welfare issues that is quite rightly that they make the ground as safe as possible. And I think the ground will be quite tacky and testing on the first day. I think it will suit the Shunter perfectly. He's in the same form, which is the worry, because he had a good couple of hard races just in front of Cheltenham. I think he'll win this easily. I don't think it'll even be close.
Yeah, I guess on the face of it, yeah, it looks. You think when you win a handicap like that, it was going to be a hard race for the Shunter, but everything went to plan for him. He was in the perfect position, wasn't he? And he wasn't really overly extended. So the Shunter then for Tom. It is Protectorate for Paul. Simon, what wins the opener?
Yeah, I think our traders are going to take on the Shunter. I think they're keen to. I think they felt that obviously he was ridden by that talented conditional, taking weight off. Ran from the front, dictated the pace. He's got to step up again. Very interesting to hear how bullish Tom is, though. So this is going to be fascinating. So Coral against the Shunter, Tom 4. And again, probably taking on Hitman on the basis he hasn't quite... this is his testing ground, really. He's avoided Cheltenham. So with Fusel Raffles, although very interesting to hear the views on the ground, his best 2 RPRs have been over 2.5 miles. And I thought he ran a really good race at Cheltenham. Obviously, the ground maybe a tad softer tomorrow. And Eldorado, getting to become a big price, just out to 6-1 now. And obviously, Joe reasonably bullish. And I think he's probably getting to an each-way price.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Fusel Raffles, just to say about, I did think that he was maybe taken out of his comfort zone a bit with Sham Blue suddenly going off in front. So it is a fascinating race for the opener tomorrow at Aintree. So we've got 3 places each way. Just remind us, Tom, what are you going for?
I like the Shunter there, Ross.
The Shunter for Tom. Paul?
Yeah, Protectorate for me.
Protectorate then. And Simon?
Fusel Raffles, actually. I'm going to stick with they put me off with their ground predictions, but I'm sticking with Fusel Raffles.
All right, and I think Eldorado Allen at each way is a cracking bet as well. So far, we've ignored the favourite, tipped 4 horses between us in a 7-runner race. So I can see this is going to be another meeting of fairly strong and differing opinions there. So that's the Manifesto, the first race on the card at Aintree tomorrow. Let's see what we've got coming up next now. We have a bit of a match, and again, a similar shape at the top of the betting. A Nichols runner who avoided Cheltenham and has been well backed for this Aintree contest for the anniversary Juvenile Hurdle. Monmoral is 10-11, Adagio 7-4. Then we jump out to 5-20 and John Locke at 12s, 20-1 Paros and 66-1 Carlos Felix. First question to you, Tom. Let's get this out of the way. Is it definitely a match?
Yeah, I think it probably is, actually. I did have a good look at 5-20, but I think she's got a bit to find despite the £7 allowance she gets. But I just think the favourite's the wrong way round. I'm not quite sure why Adagio, who was second in what everyone thought was a really good triumph beforehand, is suddenly, you got 7-4 against 11-10 on against a horse that won admittedly a decent race at Doncaster, but it wasn't the Triumph Hurdle. I think they're the wrong way round. I would have Adagio as the strong favourite. I think he will be the strong favourite, and I think he'll win. I thought his Triumph Hurdle performance was another step up. Obviously, this is a different track, but as I say, I think the ground will suit him. I think he'll win, and I think he might end up being favourite.
Yeah, he's like I said. You would expect a horse of his profile to be favourite, but that kind of goes for a lot of Nichols runners. I know it's not the same as Cheltenham, Simon, in terms of money and and people backing horses anti-post. But I started to look at these races, and all the Nichols runners on day one seem to be very heavily backed, or at least maybe you're dodging them in the market, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know, the sort of bookies sort of make the market, but then the punters do. So I suppose it's the way the race is being viewed. I suppose they've avoided Cheltenham, so they haven't had the hard race. That's Hitman and some say certainly Monmoral, you don't know how good they are. So they're kind of priced on potential rather than proven form. Whereas Adagio, you know exactly what he is, and he's really good. And it's very interesting. I totally agree with Tom. The view from the traders, the chance to them is they want to be with Adagio. We spoke to Tom Scudamore for his blog tomorrow. He's very confident. The pipe team think he's improved. Sometimes you have those horses who just thrive on their racing, and I think he's one of them. He's just kept stepping up with every single run. You know, you thought Chepstow would have taken it out of him, and he didn't. So I think he'll win. I think Tom's really confident, and the pipe team are really confident. We don't know how good Monmoral is. I mean, maybe he'll come second to another good horse, but. And I think Tom could be right. I think they'll be challenging for favouritism. It was 5-2 Adagio a couple of hours ago. It's now 7-4, and Monmoral's 10-11. So the prices are getting closer.
Yeah, indeed, Monmoral versus Adagio. Then, Mr. Kealy, which side are you on?
Yeah, I mean, out of the two, I'd be the other way. I thought Monmoral was really impressive at Haydock now, and that wasn't a brilliant race or whatever, but the 28-length third finished third in the Boodles, Elm Valley, and he absolutely toyed with him. Adagio just is one that keeps surprising me. It's one of those horses that you get on the wrong end of, and for some reason you don't like because they keep proving you wrong. So it's a race I'm going to set out because of that. I will say, if there is an upset in the race, it is probably John Locke, who was fairly decent on the flat, shaped and travelled really, really well in the Adonis and behind Tritonic. Now, that form hasn't exactly stood up really well, but Dan Skelton ran a horse called Bedrock in this race after finishing 23 length fifth, I think, on his hurdles debut to Mr. Blue Eyes in the Adonis, and came straight here, and he was third at 25-1, and a couple of seasons later beat Samcro over hurdles, and he just travelled like a good horse. He's got an awful lot to prove, but if there is one to shake those two up, I think it'll probably be him.
Yeah, he's a fascinating runner, John Locke. We had Dan on the show, of course, before Cheltenham, and he said that this horse was probably going to be one of their best handicap hurdlers in time, and you get the feeling maybe a county hurdle gamble in the future.
Yeah, there's promise to come. There's definitely a long-term plan somewhere along the line, and obviously he blows his handicap mark if he beats those two.
Yeah, but he travelled very well, traded very short at Kempton, and obviously is a very nice horse. But you're kind of sitting on the fence with this race.
Yeah, I would favour him. The more Monmoral drifts, the more I would favour him, I would say.
Okay, Monmoral for Paul and Tom.
Adagio for me, Ross.
Okay, Adagio for Tom. Simon?
Me too.
All right, and I agree as well. I think Adagio's got every chance then here for the anniversary Juvenile Hurdle. We've got a social comment. As I said, this is live and interactive. Racing Willow says, Monmoral beat Nassalam 7 lengths, Adagio beat him 2 lengths. Looks obvious, doesn't it? If only it was that obvious in racing, Tom.
Well, the prices say Racing Willow is spot on. I don't think it's quite that simple. I don't think that'll work out tomorrow.
Okay, very well. But again, sometimes in hindsight, you might look at that tomorrow and go, yeah, on a line through Nassalam, he's absolutely got the beating of Adagio. But should be an interesting matchup there in the Juvenile Hurdle tomorrow. We move on then to the 250 at Aintree tomorrow. It is the Betway Bowl, of course, a big race here, over 3 miles and a furlong, and another chance for the Tizzards to land a big race at Aintree, but they don't have the favourite, even though arguably that fourth in the Gold Cup is the best piece of recent form. The favourite, once again, is a Paul Nicholls runner. In the shape of Clanders Oboe at 5-2, waiting patiently 7-2. Native River is 5-1 with Tiger Roll. Clondor Castle at 7s. Mr. Fisher at 8-1. It's 16-1 Real Steel and 50-1 bar those here, Paul. And again, Paul Nicholls with the favourite.
This is a funny race all round, really, when you look at it. I mean, I love nothing more than seeing these old horses come back year after year after year. But when they win, they normally, if they win, it's normally a shock. You know what I mean? And here we have 4 horses at the head of the market for a Grade 1, all in their 5th or 6th season as chasers. It says something about the standard, over the last few years that we've got, that we're now in this situation. But I can find reason to oppose all of them. I think Clanders Oboe has turned into a little bit of a thinker. I half think he refused to go past Secret Investor at Newbury. And I think Paul Nicholls probably thinks the same because he stuck some cheap pieces on him. But he hasn't won for 14 months. Waiting patiently, he hasn't won for 3 years. And the only time in the last 4 years he ran on a left-handed track was when he got thumped 29 lengths by Min here and jumped terribly. Native River, the ground. Native River had a really hard race, and I would take issue with the idea that fourth is the best form on offer because he was beaten a long way in the end. And it was, he does want really soft ground. I'm sure he does. And Tiger Well, what do we really know about Tiger Well? And this is the one thing. I mean, he could actually turn up and bolt up, but the fact is, it's 4 years since he ran. It was November 2017, I think it was, since he ran in a chase that wasn't the Grand National or a cross-country race at Cheltenham. So I mean, who knows what to expect? Like, you know what I mean? It's entirely different. So, I'm going to take them on, and I'm going to Dutch the pair below him, Clondor Castle and Mr. Fisher. Now, Clondor Castle won what used to be the Racing Post Chase years ago at Kempton, and as his first run at 3 miles, and they went helter-skelter. He will not have any problem going the pace that Native River is going to attempt to set. He's obviously got some really good form at 2.5 mile. He's been progressive all season. He won that race easily. Tom George won this with Nakarat, who finished 3rd in that same Kempton race. Swerve Cheltenham came straight here afterwards. I think he's got a big shout of winning a Grade 1 first time up. Go on.
I was a bit confused why you got a 3 mile point-to-pointer like Clondor Castle and you wait till he's 9 years old to run him over 3 miles.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's like that. But I mean, someone told me last year or even the year before that he'll never get 2.5 miles. So you know what I mean? It's one of those. You see, the problem with pointers is they nearly all run over 3 miles, don't they? True. You know what I mean? So, Mr. Fisher, I mean, I'd implore you to go back and watch that Cheltenham race from Mr. Fisher because I guarantee you he might have pulled up. He was definitely the second best horse in the race without a shadow of a doubt. His problem started, I mean, we discussed this earlier on, water jumps. I hate water jumps, don't know why we have them. And he made what could easily have been a career-ending mistake, let alone a race-ending mistake. But he somehow managed to come back on the bridle and still seemed to be going well to 3 out, having made a couple more mistakes, and then he made another one. His jumper just fell apart after that. Did the right thing to pull him up. I don't know whether he'll stay, but he wasn't stopping when he won the Peterborough Chase. He wasn't stopping when he won over 2 mile 5 earlier in his career. So I think the pair of them against the old boys, that's the way to play it.
Yeah, just have a look at Mr. Fisher. In double-figure fields, he's run 7 times and he's placed once, and he gets out of his comfort zone and he hates it. Single-figure fields, he's raced 7 times, he's won 6. So if he gets into that rhythm, and he, like you said, clearly he was taken out of that rhythm, wasn't he, John? Yeah,
I mean, look, he travelled really well for a lot of it, but it was just that one mistake at the wrong time and at the wrong fence, and it just knocked him completely. And then every other, I think he just remembered it. Every other fence he went to, he just wasn't quite right, and he made a particularly bad one. I think 4 out, and. But I mean, talent-wise, to keep coming back on the bridle between the fences, it tells you there's a lot of horse there. And yeah, in a smaller field, again, he can't afford to make those mistakes around Aintree. But hopefully there will be, I mean, as much as I love Native River, he's not capable of going that fast.
No, fair enough. OK, then 2 against the field then for the bowl. Simon, again, we were talking at Cheltenham about your Ryanaires and your Gold Cups, about how they were fantastic matchups, and you've got a matchup of those form lines here. So even though it is maybe a bit of a veterans parade a little bit, it's still a cracking race.
It's a great race. It's a great race. Paul's done a really good job going through some of the runners and the ways you could take them on, and one of them's got to win. And I mean, I've worked on through. It's funny how you see different things. I thought Allaho gave all those horses such a hard race with the way he galloped. And Mr. Fisher was one of the few horses to really, at one point, I thought he was going to be second, but then I'd worry that would leave a mark. But we'll find out tomorrow because he ran a huge race. Native River, my heart always, rules my head a little bit. I think he always surprises you. When you think he's had a hard race, he comes back and does it again. And his jumping does seem to just stand him in such good stead round this course. In the 2 times he's won, and it was his undoing last time because they took the fences out and he came third. Still ran a big race. So, you've got to take a bit on trust that he's going to come on from the Gold Cup rather than go backwards. But I still think he could run a big race because my memory of these sorts of races is that horse, as soon as you make a mistake, you're out here on this mile-made course. You know, you need to get into a rhythm, jump well, and it's the one thing Native River does do. For the reasons Paul said, I think waiting patiently and Clanzoba were taken on. Tiger Roll's fascinating. He hasn't run in a Grade 1 for 6 years. But, you know, it's mad, isn't it? Because the Grand National's a Grade 3. You know, the cross country isn't a grade race. So this horse is rated.
Well, this is a
Triumph Hurdle
4-year-old Triumph Hurdle Grade 1 winner back in.
Yeah. So it's a brilliant race. You know, I'd be fascinated to
Another one in the Grand National, haven't they? Far class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another
Yeah.
Triumph Hurdle winner.
But the one for money, Clondor Castle's been probably one of the better backed horses in the last 12 hours or so, which I think is basically almost when you go through the field, pick holes in all of them. He'll love the ground. He's quite progressive, I suppose. And did win what we used to remember lovingly as the Racing Post Chase, which is
and the yard are in cracking form as well. So Tom, I think we've covered angles left, right, and centre here. Obviously, Tiger Roll, you were saying at Cheltenham, was the headline horse pretty much of the entire week, and you can't help but feel that owners maybe. Was it a bit of a publicity stunt? Maybe they were going to go for this race all along.
I don't know what they're playing at, that mob. Let them get on with it. That's my opinion. I don't fancy anything. I went through this race with a fine-tooth. I couldn't find a reason to back anything in this race. I think by process of elimination, I would probably come down on Clondor Castle as well. Yeah. But with Native River is a bigger price than Clondor Castle, I will swap. I will change and back Native River because I think that's the way the market might go. I think everyone will be want to be against Native River for some unknown reason, and we want to be with Clondor Castle. I was on Mr. Fisher at Cheltenham too, and I thought he was exhausted. I'd be surprised if take a really tough performance after making those mistakes to come back and win over 3 miles one here. He could do it, but I've never had Mr. Fisher down as a toughie. Had him down as a flashy, like lots of Nicky Henderson's horses, and I don't know, I'd be worried about him. Waiting patiently, as Keels has said, he never wins. Clande's Hobo, I think he's better going the other way round. He's another one that I've got my doubts about. Real Steel won't stay. ASO's not good enough anymore. He's getting on. So Tiger Roll, as you say, around a park track. I mean, he could win by miles, couldn't he, Tiger Roll? I know Davy Russell doesn't think he's a great jumper, funnily enough, despite having won 2 Grand Nationals on him. He thinks the fences might catch him out. So I'd have it between Clondor Castle and Native River. At the moment, I'm a Clondor Castle fan because he's the bigger price. But if come the off, Native River drifts out to sort of 7 or 8 to 1, which I think he might, I'll switch to him because I think this track will suit him. I think he'll get the lead. I don't think he'll get harried. And I think he's just about the best horse anyway. So at the moment, I'm siding with Clondor Castle through elimination, but prices change everything, and I could switch to Native River.
Okay, for a man who didn't have an opinion on the race, you've given 2 pretty good opinions there, Tom.
Yeah, I had a little nap in between that. Great.
Beautiful stuff.
Coming from you, Keels, blimey.
So selections for the bowl then before we move on, Tom.
How long you got? Clondor Castle, but perhaps Native River.
Okay, Paul.
I backed Clondor Castle and Mr. Fisher.
Simon.
Native River, sticking with him.
Okay, and I think I'm all Native River and Clondor Castle. I would Dutch the 2 as well. So between us, we're getting there. We're getting there closer to a consensus in a race. I wonder if we will all agree at some point. I wouldn't necessarily bet on it. Moving on then for the Aintree Hurdle there. Again, similar to the bowl, it's a mashup of form lines, and it is an absolutely fascinating clash here, albeit the champion hurdle form, which has often come to the fore in this race, is not necessarily shown up by those horses who ran well in the race. Abacadabra is 130 favourite, joint favourite in fact with Jason the Militant. One of them fell, one of them avoided the race because the yard already had the decisive winner. And we've got McFabulous in at 11 to 2. It's 7 to 1 Brewing Up a Storm, 9 to 1 Song for Someone, 11 to 1 Bouverdare, 12 to 1 Silver Streak, and 14 to 1 Bar Those. So again, this is a mashup in terms of betting, though. I'm just noticing McFabulous yesterday was a lot shorter and has drifted out. Yeah. There seems to be quite a bit of money for Jason the Militant.
Well, I mean, not only yesterday. I think when I was looking at this race earlier this afternoon, McFabulous was just about favourite. He's now out to 11 to 2. Speaking to the traders on the way here, they felt that was the way it was going to go. That the Irish, they said they want to be with the Irish horses. You know, I know there isn't a huge Irish challenge for Aintree, or certainly nothing of the Cheltenham ilk. But they've got 2 serious contenders here, and they're now first and second favourite. McFabulous taking a massive walk in the market. So is Brewing Up a Storm. They clearly don't like that Kempton form line, the market. And it was interesting. He mentioned that they felt the Coral Boys that maybe Buzz was a horse who could progress from handicaps into this kind of company. And it's interesting to see there has been quite a bit of money for Buzz. I don't know if he's been tipped up somewhere this evening, but no, I think it's a really good race. Not the strongest, we'd say, not the strongest renewal.
Yeah, like you said, that Champion Hurdle form is usually involved here.
Exactly. The Fall is the shortest price, like you said, and you've got Silver Streak and Not So Sleepy. I've got to say, in searching, you can make cases again against quite a few of these. I thought Not So Sleepy was interesting. If they could just conserve his energy all the way around there, he will surely stay. He was fourth twice over 2 mile 2 in the Cesarewitch. He was running on again, rallying again in the Champion Hurdle. And I just thought at a big price, he's worth a chance of this trip. And if they can conserve his energy, he might run into place.
Okay, if he can conserve his energy, and looking at this race on paper, Paul, it looks like there might be a lot of energy expended early on.
Well, there's certainly plenty of pace in the race. Obviously, Song for Someone, one of them. Not So Sleepy might do the same. Jason the Militant makes a run in as well. It's going to, and Silver Streak might do, of course. Although I'm assuming at this trip they might hold him up. I wonder how Trends punters are approaching this race, because this race is, year after year. In fact, the last 10 years, it's either been won by something that was placed in the Champion Hurdle or unplaced in the Stayers Hurdle. This year we've got nothing that was placed in the Champion Hurdle, nothing that ran in the Stayers Hurdle. So what do? I'm not surprised that the money has come for the 2 Irish ones, but both have got to prove themselves at the trip. The betting has also gone as though people are expecting the ground to be softer than is given, because Jason the Militant is said to need it soft. And we know that Mac Fabulous hated it at Fontwell when it was bad. I just think, they've both got to prove themselves at the trip, and I think Song for Someone would be a far better horse than McFabulous at 2 mile. Yeah, absolutely wants 2.5 mile. I think we saw that at Wincanton. I don't think he was right for whatever reason from the start that day at Wincanton when he was thrashed by Goshen. But he was heavily eased after the last, and he was giving him £6. So the 22 lengths isn't a true measure anyway. His 2 runs before that were really, really good. He flies over his hurdles. And I just think he's got a decent race in him. I'm pretty sure he has. Might be this one. I think he's now going over the right trip. And of the Brits, I think he should be fav.
In terms of trends, I'm just saying every British trained winner to have won this race ran at Cheltenham, so that's kind of against Song for Someone. 29 of the 43 running the Champion Hurdle. Half of the past 26 winners were trained in Ireland, so it is, but again, the races are a bit different this year because a lot of the horses who would fit those kind of trends aren't even here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is a strange one here for the Aintree Hurdle, but we do have plenty of Grade 1 form on offer, Tom.
Yeah, look, you said I went on last time, so I'm not going to go on this time. Jason the Militant wins and we'll move on. Yeah.
I didn't say you went on and
more
on.
More than that, Tom, exactly.
I just said that you had no opinion and then suddenly...
No one's mentioned Abracadabras particularly. Obviously,
yeah. Well, he's the classiest horse in the race, isn't he? I mean, if he stays the trip, I have my doubts about him staying. I think his problem with him is he probably doesn't really quite stay 2 miles. So 2.5 miles will be the problem. I just think that Jason the Militant's, Henry the Dromhead's got the best hurdlers in the country. He's got, I thought, his form last time where he gave 9, where he beat Petit Mouchoir by 7 lengths, giving him £9 is the best form anyway. And I think he'll improve for the trip. I don't think the ground's an issue. I just think he'll win.
Yeah, I actually backed him at, I think, sort of 80-1 for the Champion Hurdle, thinking he might run on into a place. And then obviously they didn't run in because they had a clear winner. But the speed figure of that Fairy House race was a very good one. So, yeah, it's a bit of an open race. But Jason the Militant for you then, Tom?
Yeah, all in.
Okay, and I must give a word out to Silver Streak. Depending on what the ground is tomorrow and how it changes, his record on good to soft or better: 4th, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 1st, 1st, 4th, 1st, 2nd, 1st, 1st, and carried out just to top that off. But again, he's rated £5 superior to everything in this race.
He's best horse in the race by £5 if you believe the handicap, but that's based on that 1-1 from a below par epatante. Otherwise, he's right back on 158 with about half a dozen of the others.
Yes, true.
It's that tight, and if you call that 158 your par, the lowest rated in there is, well, there's one lower than 153. It's that tight.
Yeah. Okay, so and Paul, your pick?
My pick is Song for Someone's tentative, not strong.
Okay, and Simon?
I'm just going to take a couple of flyers on Buzz and Not So Sleepy at each way prices.
Okay, very well. Aintree Hurdle then. Best of luck with your bets in that wide open contest in a market that could be very different by the time they jump off, as it's changing by the hour. Moving on then, we've got 3 races to go on the first day of Aintree. And next up it is the Rose Patterson Randox Foxhunters Open Hunters Chase here. And we'll be coming to you, Tom. First for this one, I'm sure. Billaway 3-1 favourite. Cat Tiger 11-2, 6-1 Samatagal. Late Night Pass 15-2, 8-1 Some Man, 11-1 Dashing Perk, 14-1 Mighty Stowaway, and bigger prices the rest. And of course, it is races for punters, as it were, Tom. And I'm sure Paul will be watching something else while this race is on. But you tipped the winner at Cheltenham. I
like them.
You love them.
I like these races, Ross. I like them.
What have you got up your sleeve?
Well, the reason is that the bookies don't have a clue what's going on either, do they? So I'm sitting here with, and I think they get the market wrong every time in these races because they're not looked at. Punters don't look at them. People like Keels wouldn't look at them. So all the clever money, no one knows what's going on. So I think you've got a chance in these races. I want to take on Billaway. He's got the best form, but I don't think he's brilliant. I think there's 3 that stand out. Sametagal is one of them. For Paul Nicholls, I think he's got a better chance than Cat Tiger. He's got a better jockey than Cat Tiger, that's for sure. But I think the 2 I want to be with are Late Night Pass, who ran 4th in the Hunters Chase at Cheltenham. Nearly called it the Foxhunters. It's not the Foxhunters, isn't it? More, I got in trouble for that. It's the Hunters. It's the Hunters Chase at Cheltenham. I thought Gina Andrews will be on board. I think he wants to drop back in trip. I don't think he quite stays. But what I most like about him is his style of running. I think these Foxhunters, these races around the national fences, especially for the amateurs, you want to be up with the pace, and I think he'll go really well for a long one. But the one I really like is an Irish horse, funnily enough, called Some Man, who won at Down Royal last time. He won in a hack canter. He's been crying out for good ground or decent ground. Hopefully it won't be too soft. And around this trip, he doesn't quite get 3 miles. He was sort of fancied to beat Billaway on one occasion last year, and he didn't get home in the soft ground. He was really impressive at Down Royal last time, and he has got a top jockey in Barry O'Neill on board. So the one I like here is Some Man. I think he's going to run a massive race. He's got a good cruising speed. I think he'll love the fences. He's only 8. I know this race always goes to 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds and people my own Keels' age, but I want to be with a younger brigade. I think Some Man's going to win it.
Okay, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Traditionally, Tom, you need to be smoking in a bus stop and drinking hooch from a paper bag. And I don't know where I'm going with these trends, Paul. So why don't you step in? You love a Foxhunters. Yeah, sounds all right, doesn't it?
Smoking a fag in a bus stop, some hooch. Nice.
What are you fancy in this race?
Well, I did watch the Hunters race at Cheltenham because Tom told us all about the winner, and I did. Thank you very much, Tom.
Oh, good.
And I'm not an expert at these, but as Tom said, it did look very much to me like Late Night Pass wanted to drop in trip, and he went really well throughout that race. So that would be my tentative selection, but I'm not going to waste your time on it anymore.
Okay, very well. I was quite interested in Samatagal here. I mean, experience around this fences really helps, and you were showing me, of course, the race won by Bow Bay. In which Samatagal was placed, and another horse that you will, I'm sure, mention at some point for the Topham. But Samatagal ran an absolute cracker there, was 5 wide, jumped really well, and this is a significantly easier race, and he's another one who's been very well backed. He
has, yeah. I mean, they're definitely taking on the favourite and the second favourite. Cat Tiger now joint second favourite, Samatagal. I mean, Cat Tiger's only had 1 chase run in England. I think it was 2018, he was running in France over fences. I think he's going to be very easy to back a 7-year-old, very lightly raced, doesn't sort of fit the profile of the race. I think the boys in the office were pointing out Billaway on time form's got a couple of X's for jumping, which doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's not something I've studied closely, but suggesting that his jumping's not great, which is, first time over the national fences wouldn't fill you with confidence. So I think it's well worth taking it on. There has been money for Late Night Pass. I watched the Hunter Chase again. He was travelling beautifully into the home straight and just emptied then. So I think the trip will be perfect. Dashing Perk, another one. Sam Whaley-Cohen got good record over the fences. Will like the better ground. 2.5 miles, 2 mile 5. Perfect for him. So he's been quite well backed. So I think those horses around that mark, some man, Samatagal, I can see a lot of action on them, and maybe the favourite and the second favourite, Cat Tiger, drifting out tomorrow.
Okay, just a quick price check on a horse called More Bucks. who was going to be way down the list.
More bucks. I'm sliding all the way down. What? Tell me why.
That's a trendy one, Ross. That's a trendy one. That's
1.
Peter Bowen, isn't it? It's the
66
Bowen
to 1.
angle.
It is a Bowen angle, yeah. Dino won this a few years ago. But I also like horses who have experience over these fences in better races. And people think, well, they didn't run well over the national fences. But it's almost like they're learning even if they pull up or run seat and then they come up against easier opposition like this. And I could see him bounding out at a huge price and running well.
And I mean, listen, there have been some big price winners. I think it's sort of 14 to 1, 21, 16 to 1. Not quite the 66 to 1, but there have been some big price placed horses as well. So it's well worth over the national fences, even in this race, having a little look at a big price. So more bucks is being written down on my piece of paper for sure. Yep. Can't not back that now.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I can't wait for it to pull up halfway there.
Just to butt in there, boys. You might see our form figures. It actually won a point-to-point last week. We haven't got it in our form figures at the moment. I don't know if it'll be in by the time you look at it, but it did win. It showed that it was in decent form last week. So
yeah,
the boys might have missed that, and he's probably not 100 to 1 shot, as you point out, Ross.
Yeah, and again, it depends on ground, but again, on breeding, most of his runs have been on soft ground recently, and better ground will suit. So that's the Foxhunters then. Tom, your pick?
Some Man for me.
Some Man then for Tom. Paul?
The other one that Tom said. Late Night Pass.
Late Night Pass for Paul. So
I'm back in Dashing Perk and Late Night Pass.
Okay.
My 2 selections, yeah.
And I will go with Segal and more bucks at a big price then, with experience over the Aintree fences. We've got 2 more races to go then on day 1. I imagine we're going to have slightly stronger opinions on the penultimate race than the finale. So let's have a look then here at the Close Brothers Red Rum Handicap Chase, which as ever is going to be fast and furious. And a handicap blot potentially at the top of the betting here in the shape of Destrier, who's been well backed and is now 5 to 1. Getaway Trump is 8 to 1. Frero Bamboo and On the Slopes and Moon Over Germany are 8 to 1. It is 9 to 1. Editor De Geet, 10 to 1. Grey Diamond and 11 to 1. And bigger the rest. Social comments coming up for this Red Run Handicap Chase. Jordan Dwyer says, what do Tom and Kealy think about Moon Over Germany? Yeah, of course. Defending
I like the way
his
he uses
crown.
my first name and your surname, Keels. That's it. I'm a big fan of this Jordan already. Big fan of Jordan.
He can't pronounce your surname, Tom. That's why probably. But,
Nobody calls me by my first name. The name Paul just doesn't exist.
Moon Over Germany, gents.
Yeah, he absolutely bounded home in this a couple of years ago, didn't he? He's obviously got a good chance. He's still a fair bit higher, but obviously Jordan Gageford's on him. There's an absolute blot in the race, though, isn't there?
There is. I was talking to you about this race earlier, and you said I was hoping to get a decent price.
Yeah, it was one of those. I'd had it on my mind all year since he returned. Destrier, trained by Dan Skelton. It's just one of those. He's just an absolutely ace at getting his horses back down to a decent mark. He's done it so many times. I mean, look what he did with Langer Dan, who won the Imperial Cup, and then you've got this Destrier who 2 years ago was 3 lengths third in Grade 1 at the track over 2 miles. OK, it wasn't the greatest Grade 1 in the world, but he was rated 151 afterwards. Went off 5 to 4 favourite off that mark in a race at Cheltenham the following season. The following season didn't really work for him after he finished third in the Haldon Gold Cup. It's interesting to say, Dan Skelton say, I've had this in mind for him since the turn of the year, because he didn't actually return him until the return of the year. He said he'd had a setback. In his stable tour, he said he'll definitely win a good race. And he's dropped £15 in 4 runs, 3 of them since January, all of them on very soft ground that he doesn't really want. He's down to a mark of 136.
Oh, hello.
Interesting.
I think Mr. Skelton's ringing us.
Phone going in my ear. Yes. Mr. Skelton's ringing. Yeah, but the cat is well out of the bag. I was hoping it would have slipped under the radar, but I was saying to somebody on Saturday, blimey, I was hoping I'd get more than 9 to 1, and he's now 5 to 1. But I think he'll win. Yeah,
I mean, you're saying about that novice form that maybe it's not the best novice chaser form around, but in 4th was Clondor Castle.
Of course, yeah.
We've just tipped up for the bowl, and just ahead was Us and Them, who ran at Cheltenham off mark of 147.
I mean, in terms of Grade 1s, it wasn't a brilliant race at the time, but it's still, it's still 150s form, and he's running off 136 now, and he's only 8.
Yeah.
So if he comes back, he wants decent ground, nice flat track, 2 miles. He'd probably be ridden a lot more prominently than he has been. And he jumped really well at Chepstow last time, despite being well beat.
The thing that Destrier's got against him, Tom, is that one of these races is, novices have a fantastic record. The last 4 renewals of this contest have been won by novices, and it's been going that way in handicap chases at the big festivals over the past few seasons. And there are quite a few interesting novices up against the favourite.
Yeah, there's loads in there. I mean, listen, I fully endorse everything Kealy said. The only thing is the price, isn't it? I mean, Kealy's is a lot more forgiving than I am. I don't like backing horses at relatively short prices that haven't finished within 30 lengths of the winner for in about a year and a half. He might have been plotted up for this, but it's a hard race to get your mojo back in, I always think, because they go lickety-split from the word go. And if he's slightly off his game, he'll get behind and it will all be over. Now, he might easily win. He might win by miles, and he might start 3-1, and everyone will think it's a good thing. But for me, 5-1's plenty short enough for a horse that I haven't seen show anything for ages. That's just my way of looking at races. So I'd want to be against him. I thought Getaway Trump was becoming quite a big price, actually. I know he's up the top of the weights, but I was really impressed with him at Doncaster last time. I think he's a classy horse. He's still well handicapped on his hurdles form. I think he could go well. But the one I really like is right down the bottom, or not quite down the bottom, is Gary Moore's horse, Editor du Geet. I've been sort of on his case since he ran at Ascot at the start of the season over 2 miles 3, where he jumped brilliantly, and I thought he was going to win the whole way around, and he just got caught by Sully Dock on the run-in. And he's been disappointing since then, or he had been disappointing until he ran at Newbury last time, where I think the better ground really suited him. He jumped well. He beat 2 horses that have won since. And after the race, I remember Josh Moore coming on the telly and saying, he was half fit for this. We'd given him a couple of months off because we were disappointed with him, and he'll come on again for that. If he comes on again and gets into a rhythm out front, I think he'll be hard to catch. I think he's a lot better than 130 or whatever he is. And while Destrier or whatever might be too well handicapped for him, I think he's got a good race in him, this Editor de Geet, and I think the race might suit him. So while being very scared of Destrier, the price has gone for me, and I'll stick with Editor de Geet.
Okay, Editor de Geet is a 9-1 shot here. I quite like the form. I think the Grey Diamond Dostal Phil form from Newbury and Sandown has been a little bit underrated because it's small fields and it's softer ground. But I think actually this track and this ground will suit, and I do like horses like Grey Diamond who never run a bad race, and they go in races like this and they still run those good races. But again, yeah, from a betting perspective, Simon, Destrier's been heavily backed. From a punting perspective, what would you be looking at?
Yeah, it's a really good competitive race, and I do enjoy watching it because they do go so fast, as Tom says, and it's all about who almost jumps the best and gets into the best position. So I think horses like Sully Dock, funny enough, was quite well backed for Cheltenham in the plate. Never got into it behind the shunter. Who did? He dominated that race. Hasn't really run much at 2 miles, but he travels really well in his races. He's been quite well backed again for this. So clearly, the camp there must know he's in great form, and maybe he's about to step up. He's 12-1. I half had a look at Zanza. I mean, he was obviously fell behind Sky Pirate, was hampered terribly down the back in the Grand Annual at Cheltenham. I mean, he's a horse.
Never runs well at that track, though, does he?
Never runs well at Cheltenham. At Cheltenham, exactly. So I just think he's an interesting horse who's suddenly going to pop up when you don't back him, when you don't fancy him. But I think, like the guys have said, Destrier stands out. We haven't mentioned the Jockeys Championship race. Obviously, Harry Skelton, this is one of those, they sort of say it's taking a break from the 3 days entry, but clearly they still count. So if Harry can ride a winner here, it's one more close to Brian Hughes. But yeah, I think it's a good betting race. We'll be taking on Destrier, but no surprise if he wins.
Okay, but what
I'm going to go for Sully Dock. I'll go for Sully Dock.
Sully Dock for Simon. Paul?
Destrier, yeah.
Destrier for Paul. And Tom?
Editor de Geet for me, Ross.
Okay, and I will go with Grey Diamond and Dostal Phil then here for this Red Run Handicap Chase. And the final race then on day 1 of Aintree is the Mayor's Open Bumper. It is a Grade 2 event and one of the hottest favourites the entire week here in the shape of Eileen Dover, 10-11. LA Bell is 5-2, 12-1 Me Too Please, 14-1 Mine Sunday, 16-1 Miss Lamb, and Where's Maud Gone, and 22-1 and Bigger the Rest. And one of the hottest favourites of the week in the bumper. Tom, now you like hunter chasers, you like cross countries. I expect you to tip the winner of the bumper here, please, as well.
Well, you'll expect wrong, Ross. I'm sure of that, because I won't be going for Eileen Dover, I don't think. Look, she's got very good form. She's looked very good. It's just, I don't know. I've gone through this race a few times, and short price favourites have got a terrible record on it. I know Getaway Katie May won it 2 years ago, but most of them get turned over. This is a big step up. I know the horse that she beat at Market Race and came out and won a graded race in Ireland, Grandee, but that was on heavy ground. This is a totally different kettle of fish. The one I like is just simply because she's Irish, is Arthur Moore's horse, which I've forgotten the name of. But
Me
I'll
Too,
remember
Please.
Me Too, Please. Yeah, believe it or not, she is closely related to an Oaks winner, Divine Light or Divine something. Henry Cecil trained it. She won last time impressively. She's the only Irish trained mare in the race. They take bumpers seriously. We don't. Rachel Blackmore's up. I thought 14-1, 12-1, whatever she is. Thought that was a decent each way bet.
Love Divine? Love Divine was
Divine,
the ex.
Love Divine, that's it.
God, she was great.
Divine Light. Where did that come from? Yeah, Love Divine, that's the one.
Giving connections, I think, Me Too Please might be rocking up at Royal Ascot then as well for some races. But close us out with the winner, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, as could Eileen Dover, because she's not going to see a hurdle in her life, is she? She's going straight on the flat after this, and she has looked very, very good. I think she'll probably win. I've had a few quid each way on a very big price on one called Step to the Top, who's moved from Noel Williams to Laura Morgan. On Racing Post rating, she's actually fourth best in the race, despite the fact that she was 80-1 in places this morning. She's had 2 runs this year on soft ground that she doesn't want. She was second in the listed mares bumper at Kempton on good at soft ground last season. There's a reason that a lot of these bumpers tend to be. This sort of bumper tends to, be bad news for the hot favourite, and that's because there's an awful lot of messing around in it. You get bumped and barged all over the place. She's got a lot of experience. She's run 5 times. I think she might run well at a big price. But I do, Laura Moore, she booked Jack Kennedy. Another one. She's got a shorter price one in there called Where's Maud Gone with Derek O'Connor on as well. So she's not messing about with the jockeys at all. So I'd imagine she thinks both of them are going to run well. I think Eileen Dover will win, but for an each way bet, Step to the Top.
Yeah, and this season the yard 23 from 100, 23% strike rate, 26 quid level stake profit. So they're having a fantastic season. Yeah. Okay, big price for that one. What wins the finale, Simon?
Again, I think it's worth having a tilt at a couple of big prices just because the stats say it's worth having a go. Christian Williams in the Racing Post jury on Monday was asked for a horse to follow. He said Manceline won at 100-1 at Warwick, beat the geldings. And he said she's built like a gelding. So at 33-1, I thought I'd take a flyer on her. Actually, Heartbreaker, trained by Michael Bell, beautifully bred. I mean, all her relatives have won race on the flat. She's 33-1. I mean, she hasn't got a great rating, but she's only run them once at Fakenham.
Good speed figure, though, and it's up there with the shorter price runners.
33-1, both of those two, for a bit of sport in the last. Can't go too far wrong.
Okay, very well then for the mayor's bumper. Just reiterate our selections, Tom, for the finale.
The Irish horse that I forgot the name of.
Me Too,
Me Too, Please.
Me Too, Please. Simon?
Manceline and Heartbreaker.
And Paul?
Eileen Dover will win, but have a couple of quid each way on Step to the Top.
Okay, and we must have a quick word on LA Bell as well, who was given one of the most misjudged rides, I think, at the festival. We talked about the second Kilcrut, but this horse came from last into third and obviously has that champion bumper form. So fascinating race to close things off, but we are slightly over time, so let's end proceedings with our naps of day one. Tom?
Jason the Militant in the Aintree Hurdle for me, Ross.
Okay, Jason the Militant then for Tom.
I'm going to give Protectorate a chance to bounce back. I think he's the wrong price.
Okay, Protectorate in the opener then, Simon.
One of my favourite horses in training, Native River. I think he can have another big day and surprise a few people.
Lovely stuff. And I think Adagio looks the most obvious bet of day one. Probably bigger priced horses on days 2 and 3, but Adagio looks to have every chance. So we've got a few selections there for you on day one. Thanks for joining us. We have got 2 more shows to come, of course, and we'll be looking ahead to the National on Friday night as well. Thank you to Paul, to Tom, to Simon, and of course to Joe Tizzard for joining us as well. Check out those coral prices and offers for Aintree, and remember to gamble responsibly. This is supposed to be fun, and of course it is a long few days. Thanks ever so much. I've been Ross Brierley. Good night. See you tomorrow.